Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Big Bros podcast. My name is Ilan, and welcome if it's your first time joining. I'm joined by my lovely friend and co-host, Jeremy. How's it going?
I'm well, mate. How are you going?
I'm pretty good. Getting sick of winter, I gotta be honest with you. It's too cold.
We're at the tail end of it, mate. We're at the tail end, nearly spring, so we can smell the roses.
We can smell the roses, but you know who can't potentially smell the roses?
Who can't smell them, mate? Enlighten me.
The poor individuals who may be stuck in a friend zone. Now, what the hell is a friend zone?
It's a term that's existed for a while now, isn't it? I think if you're between the ages of 13, or not even between, but 13 plus, 12 plus, you all know what a friend zone is. It's the time when you might like someone and they don't like you back in that way, and they say, we're probably better off just as friends. Have you been there?
Probably when I was in school. Not probably. I definitely have. But we don't talk about that, but I guess we will.
Well, we do. We open vulnerability here, so that's what it's all about. Give us that anecdotal time of your life, the friend zone. What did it feel like? How did it manifest for you, mate?
Oh, look, the memory of it is a little bit jaded, but what I can tell you is it is not a fun feeling. It is a feeling very much where you feel inadequate, you don't feel good enough.
Fitting word.
In a really, really weird way, you feel insulted, but not necessarily because they've done something wrong, but more from the perspective of like, gee, I'm really not good enough. And that's an icky feeling, but
it's an ego hit.
It's a massive ego hit. And guess what?
It's probably your first ego hit when you're in like lower levels of high school.
I reckon so, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad I went through that. And I think that going through an experience that jades your ego is always going to be a good thing. And it's because it allows you to learn and it allows you to move forward. And something I realized is that a lot of people who I see are now stuck in friend zones. Like I'll see on TikTok, like how to get out of the friend zone. And in my head, intuitively, I feel like I already have an answer for that person. Whereas when I was that prepubescent or mid-pubescent boy in year 11 and 12, I probably wasn't that confident, nor did I have the answers. And I was just navigating the shit for the first time. But a lot of people ask, should I even try to get out of the friend zone?
Did you?
I mean, not successfully, but
you did try.
I think everyone gets to a point where you try. But the one thing, I look at it really simply, right? If you have feelings for someone and they happen to be your friend, that's no longer a friendship. And to pretend that it is actually unfair to that other person, because they might be viewing you in the most platonic way possible, but you don't share the same feelings back. And when I say feelings, I don't mean in the platonic sense. So I think it's almost on you to tell them how you're feeling, because are those feelings for them ever going to go away? Truthfully. And also, even if they do kind of go down a little bit, but then they start telling you about this new person they're seeing and who they're dating, do you really want to be subject to hearing all about that? Probably not. And would I blame you? Of course not. But I think you have to be honest. And the reason you can at least be honest is because it shows a bit of courage, number one. And number two, it gives yourself an opportunity to either pursue things with them, assuming that they might feel a certain way, or it gives you the opportunity to leave. Because if you were to ask me whether males and females can truly be platonic friends, I said in cases where there's no sexual attraction, sure. But as soon as those romantic feelings evolve, it's one of the biggest reasons why I don't believe, male-female platonic friendships can exist, is because this happens way more often than we think. So, can you actually get out of it? I don't think so, but I think you can remove yourself out of the situation.
What's worse than being in a friend zone, in my opinion, is being in a friend zone with a person that is still egging you on or showing you attention or flirting with you or not fully acknowledging that this is a friend zone situation. You'd much rather be in a friend zone where you've shot your shot, you've tried, and they say, hey, nice try, I love you as a friend, but it's nothing more than that. And I hope you understand that. What is absolutely worse is when they say those things, but then still proceed to maybe flirt with you, maybe even try to make fun of you for feeling a little bit that way about them, being like, oh, as if you feel that way about me. I think that's the worst thing that you can do, because not only is your ego being hit in that moment already, you now feel a sense of inadequacy on another level, and that can actually taint your friendship with that person, because then you're made to feel a little bit ashamed for potentially liking them in that way.
Yeah, you can't view breadcrumbs as a sign that they're interested in you. It might be a sign that they crave your attention and validation, and you might be a quick dopamine access for them to do that, for them to clearly message you at any time, and for you to drop anything so they can see you or ask something of you. You're simply there as a friend for them, and it might seem like something more. And you might think in your head, well, they know that I like them, and they're continuously acting in this way that isn't just us being friends. You're right. It might not just be them giving you a sign that you're just friends, but it's certainly nothing more than them having necessary feelings for you. Because I can promise you, if you were to walk away from that situation, two things will either happen. Either one thing, they'll come back to you and say, I've had a think, and maybe I do feel a similar way, and I'm happy to see what this new dynamic might hold for us.
Rare though, but
very
can
rare.
Happen.
Or number two, they might come back and tell you, I really miss our friendship, and I wish we could go back to how we were. And that's where you have to almost just be honest and say, sorry, I can't do this. And there's nothing wrong with that. And to pretend that you can would actually be worse, because you're not going into that friendship with good faith. You're going into that friendship hoping that they might change their mind. And guess what? Imagine they end up in a relationship with someone else, and then you're then kind of, that friendship, by the way, will cease to exist. If they're a good partner, they'll probably start minimizing their contact with you. And the reason is because if I'm that person's girlfriend or boyfriend, I wouldn't really want them to hang out with someone who has in the past confess their love for them or their feelings.
Yeah, it's a dangerous one to navigate. And I think if you are the person that is being friend zoned in this moment, one, it's bloody hard, because you like this person, you've shot your shot, and you've probably rehearsed over in your head 1,000,001 times, should I tell them I like them, or should I just keep it to myself and remain just being friends? And that moment of courage has now led to an even greater moment of probably feeling a little bit ashamed because they haven't liked you back. So you're hurting at the moment. You're raw. You're feeling vulnerable. But the worst thing that you can do in this moment to yourself is keep trying to persevere with that person when they are just breadcrumbing you with attention. And what I mean by that is they're still coming in and out, showing you attention like you were doing when you were friends and as you have been friends. And that's a hard thing to just stop and put an end to, because maybe you were really close friends. Maybe you were regularly hanging out together, spending time with each other, and it's hard to just come to a halt like this just because one of those people have expressed some form of love and it hasn't been met equally. But the worst thing I think you can do is continue with how things were going, because you're just giving into those feelings that you do have, and you're not allowing yourself to actually remove from the situation and almost go through a little bit of healing here, because you do have to heal. Like, you've got some form of love. So look, I'm not going to go as far as calling it a heartbreak, but it's a little bit of a shock to the system. It's a little bit saddening to feel that way. So just like anything else that's sad and that feels like you've gone through a little bit of pain of some sort, that requires a level of healing too. So just feeding into it with that same level of attention, that same level of hanging out with that person as you were doing, it's not gonna repair you, and you're not gonna be able to just flick back into a mindset of being friends. You're actually gonna have to pull away a little bit, which is the hardest thing to do, but you'll be better for it in the long run.
And I think, and on that point, people actually fuck that bit up. They pull away in hopes that the other person's gonna change their mind. No, you almost have to pull away out of self-respect.
It's self-respect.
And assume it's not gonna happen, because I promise you, if they're truly keen on you, that it'll happen. They'll tell you, man. If your distance from them is causing them that much emotional anguish, they'll want to tell you that they miss you, and maybe they view you as more than just a friend. But one thing I did want to quickly talk to you about is the fact that you actually sub-communicate to that person that you don't have as much self-respect for yourself, that you don't have that much courage, because the fact is, you've told me.
You're saying if you give into hanging out?
in the sense that if let's say I've friend zoned you and you've told me that you like me, and I tell you I don't like you back in the same way that you like me, but then I tell you let's continue to still be friends, hang out, and then you continue to do so, whilst I might be happy I haven't lost a friend, I've on a subconscious level potentially start to lose respect for you, and I don't view you as someone of adequate self-esteem. Is that unfair? Yes, it's unfair, but it's the reality. And the reason is it's because it's like, man, I've just broken your heart and you're still willing to put up with me, right? Like, I may have not broken your heart, but I've crushed you in some way. And you're choosing to continue to see me. And I think that's a trait of a lot of the people that get into the friend zone. And there's a few, but it's usually people who are too afraid to assert what they want, assert their needs, because most people that end in friend zones, the person, it evolved as a really nice friendship. Like, let's be honest. It just means you're a good human being most of the time, that you're someone worthy of being friends with. So there's the good news. But the bad news is if you went in with the tactic of perhaps I'll be their friend first and then their partner, but you haven't actually communicated anywhere early on in that journey that perhaps you see them as more than just a friend, they're going to pop you into the friend zone, boy or girl, because you never set the framework, you never set the dynamic. Does that mean you explicitly say it? Definitely not. But there's so many things you can do which are quite obvious when you're not just trying to be friends with someone, right? And I think as you get older, you pick up on that more. So it might be different in school. But the point is, you probably never made a move as well. The opportunity may have been there and you never actually had the cojones to go through with it. And what happens is if you don't make the move when the chance was there, when are you going to make the move? What does that reflect? And perhaps in my mind, I'm thinking maybe you're not even interested in me in the first place. So then I shut off any sort of fantasy in my head where you and I could be a thing. So there's so many ways in which someone gets stuck in the friend zone. But the solution practically is very simple. You just have to be honest and disengage.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think the worst thing that you can do if you are in that friend zone is wait and hold out hope that they might like you and they might come back to you. And this can be something that happens all the time. I really think it does happen quite often, because often you might be in the friend zone and the person that just friend zone you probably says, hey, let me just think about it for a while. I'm going to just need to reassess things and think about our current connection, think about our current relationship, friendship, and maybe I will like you, but I'm just not there yet, and I'm not there yet. So let's just keep hanging out and let's give it some time, and it might lead down to that road and down to that route, and maybe it will form something. That happens a hell of a lot. That happens a lot where someone implies that there might be greater hope for a relationship, a greater hope for the future of you guys together. Now, very hard to say, nah, that's not going to work for me as the person that likes the person who is friend zoning you. But I think you can go down that route if you do have some form of actionable plan towards it, and some form of maybe even a deadline where you say, okay, well, how long are we going to give this a crack for? And when I say give this a crack, that implies hanging out and doing things that essentially a dating couple would do, essentially going on dates. Because if you are friends with that person and you've given it a shot and you've expressed your desire to be something more and they're still a bit iffy about it, you're essentially just asking them out on a date. Now, you're trying to level things up romantically. So that means you have to actually stop treating them like just a normal friend. You can't just be doing the friend things that you were maybe doing. You have to actually ask them out on a date and plan dates and do activities that people would do to go out on dates to see if there is any romantic potential there. Because a romantic potential is not going to just form within itself if it hasn't formed throughout your friendship. The reason why you guys are friends only is because there's been no push for anything more from a romantic lens. So you have to almost kickstart that if the other party is happy to do that. If they're happy to, let's say, go out for drinks with you on a night out and, go to something like a movie or some form of a date that you might not normally do with them. Something a little bit more romantic, and have conversations that might go down a little bit more of that romantic path rather than that friendship path. And it might feel weird, and it probably will bloody feel weird because you're just friends with them. But if you're both willing to invite that capacity for potentially seeing if things can go down that way, that's great, but it has to come with that actionable plan and probably a deadline, because if there is no deadline, then you're always just going to be waiting, hoping, and thinking, what if?
Well, the question is, if you weren't in the friend zone, but you were just viewing them as any other person that you were in the dating game with, how would your actions differ? And it sounds like it wouldn't differ that much. And I think in the scenario you just kind of outlined, that's fine because the person's told you that they're willing to even consider it. But I like what you said about deadline, because you can't spend the next few months hoping that they might just change their mind.
Yeah.
Because they've essentially told you, they haven't said no to it. But that doesn't mean it's a yes. And that's why I can really fuck with you as well. Yeah.
Especially when you already like the person.
Correct.
That's what you have to remember. This person likes you already.
And the person knows that you like them.
Yes.
So they haven't shut off hope, because they could have easily said like, look, I don't feel the same way to you.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it to you. I don't want to upset you. But, you know, they can say that sentence as well. So you're kind of tossing and turning between, well, why did she say that? Why didn't she say instead, oh, that they don't feel anything for me? And it can be really, really confusing, but you do need to give yourself an appropriate amount of time, because let's say you weren't dating them, but you were seeing someone else. You'd probably ascribe some sort of timeline to that as well.
Yeah.
It might not be strict, but you'd know that after 3-4 dates, if things weren't progressing, you'd probably cut the cord there, or maybe you'd progress slower or something. So I don't think you should necessarily apply a different standard because they're your friend, because they might be completely different within the dating context. I just know that it's so much easier said than done, because you can get stuck in this situation for so long. I know I did, and it was stupid. And
why did you get stuck in it for so long?
Because I didn't know what I was doing, and I thought that, I think I got stuck in it for so long because I didn't have the courage to leave. Because I think in the back of my mind, like anyone, you think that it can change.
Yeah.
And it's the delusion you sell yourself. It's the hope. And after a while, I think it just went away and I bit the bullet. But it didn't have to be as long as it did. It could have lasted didn't have to take as long.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I could have been more honest with myself, but I didn't know what I was doing. Right? It was like a first experience. It's literally why Big Bros podcast was created. It's like, I wish I had listened to either future me or future you
to know what to do in those situations.
Yeah, and it's like, it literally was a prime example of that. However, I'm glad I went through it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I experienced it. I'm glad I figured out what not to do, because I never got stuck in the friend zone after that. And the reason I didn't was because I was pretty courageous, I think, going forward in terms of intentions. Like, I wasn't really, if I wanted to date someone, I wasn't going to be their friend first, right? And I think you're the same. Like, if you like someone, your tactic has never been
be their friend first and see what happens.
Exactly. But there's a distinction. I once said on an episode, I believe the best relationships are the ones that start off as friends, but the distinction is that both people started to view each other and get to know each other as friends with an idea that they might date. So it's not like they just started friends. It was natural, because apparently 2/3 of people who get married, they started off as being friends.
Wow. So
it can work, but that actually requires you to have both parties having romantic interest in one another.
Exactly.
Right? So I'm not going to say you're stuck in the friend zone until you actually ask the question.
Yes.
Whether the other, because perhaps the feelings are mutual and you just didn't know and they never shared anything, but you are stuck in the friend zone, I would say, is when you do communicate how you feel and they tell you they don't feel the same otherwise. And one thing, if you're in school, speak to them one-on-one. Don't get this stupid like messengers. It's like, my team will speak to your team. It's like, man, speak to them one-on-one.
Yeah,
have courage.
So Sophie said she likes you. What do you want me to go and now say to her?
And then you're ruminating on the right response over lunchtime, and you're thinking, fuck, I can't be asked for the next class. I really need to think this through. And then you got a test, and it's it's useless. Like, just, everyone's on technology nowadays. Just
shoot the shot. Hey,
just shoot the shot and say, need to speak to you about this. And if they're a good friend, they'll want to speak to you about it, and you go from there. And
exactly.
I think, there's a part of me that thinks it's like, and this has been a big thing of Big Bros, which is I won't tell anyone ever what to do. So part of me is like, well, have that experience.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
it does
learn from
work
it.
out for you. Maybe, if you know what you're doing is wrong for you, but you still want to do it, who am I to tell you no? And
Yeah.
I agree. I think do something that you want to experience because it comes from you, not because it comes from someone else. And even if your friends are telling you otherwise, they might be telling you the most sensible advice, but if you feel like you need to just hope for 3-4 months that maybe they'll change their mind, would I endorse it? Probably not. But if that's what you find might be right for you, I don't know.
Well, you mentioned why you felt like you were in that situation for a while and a long time was because of just hanging around almost. And you mentioned the word standards as well. And I think that is the key difference here. And the key, almost the key to what will get you away from that sense of hope and that sense of wanting more and that sense of hanging out for someone that doesn't want you in this situation is having those standards.
You're missing one more word.
What?
Self-esteem. I had very low self-esteem. And as soon as my self-esteem went up, I know for a fact I would not tolerate
Well, there you go,
that.
because you can't, well, I think they go hand in hand because you can't have standards without having self-esteem. So if you don't have your self-esteem and your self-worth, then you don't know how to implement those standards. So maybe it should be a matter of getting your self-esteem and self-worth up first and then setting those standards. And that can come with that experience that you speak about. But what are those standards? And I think those standards stem from boundary setting almost. So I think we see oftentimes, and I've seen this with, experiences with friends and what I've heard from what they've said and, people stringing them along. And it always happens. And I think a common one is let's just say it's the girl in the scenario that has friend zoned the guy, and the girl is still reeling them in for that attention or treating them as almost like a boyfriend in a way without the label. And what I mean by that, is by saying things like, can you come over to my house right now? I'm feeling really sad. I really want to just talk to you about what's on my mind. Or can you pick me up?
Oh, come on. Like, who's saying no to that?
but this is the thing. This is where your standards lie. And this is where, if you've been friend zoned as the guy in this scenario, where do your standards lie? Are you going to go over and give all this advice and be that person that they listen to, but then you're still going to be friend zoned at the end of that conversation?
What if
and be
they
like,
say,
what the fuck is
what
this?
if they say it's Netflix and chill?
Well, that's again, where are your standards, mate? Like, are you going to allow yourself to be exposed to something like that and potentially get crushed even more when you know this person doesn't want to be with you or not? Another one can be like, what if they say, can you come and pick me up? I'm out at night and I'm feeling a little bit drunk right now. Can you come pick me up? And you know that you're just their friend and you're not their boyfriend. And this isn't to say that only boyfriends are to do this, and so I hope that doesn't get misconstrued for that. But what I'm trying to say here is typically boyfriend-esque tasks or tasks of what like a lover would do, and that those are tasks of heavy compassion during times of vulnerability and heavy love and listening and attentiveness during times of sadness or of emotional havoc or whatever it is. If you're always that person there and they aren't relying on a friend of theirs, another friend of theirs, so let's just say a girlfriend of theirs in this scenario, they're always relying on you, the guy in this scenario, that has told them that you like them, but they say, sorry, we're just friends, I don't like you back, and you're giving all of this and giving and giving and giving as if you are their boyfriend in a way, well, you're just going to feel even shitter at the end of the day. You're just going to feel like, what the hell is going on? I'm giving out so much to this person. They know that they like me, but they're not recognizing that really. They're kind of taking advantage of me now. And I'm just feeling even more worthless about myself. And I feel like I'm just kind of being trotted on by them.
You've been assigned all the relationship tasks without bearing the fruits of what those tasks usually bring.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is you're essentially the boyfriend without the physical intimacy. You're the boyfriend without the emotional intimacy. You're the boyfriend without any label, right?
Yeah.
And you're doing all the heavy lifting. And I think that's something I realized kind of in my own senses. Who I am now is very different to who I was when I was 17 and 18. way I value my time now is not the way I valued my time when I was 17 and 18. The way I respect myself now is nowhere near the way I respected myself when I was 17 and 18. The love that I have for myself now is nowhere compared to the love I had for myself when I was 17 and 18. Did those things take time to develop? Yes. Was it important to develop them? Yes. How did I develop them? Through lived experience, I suppose. But it was to also understand that I think at the time when I was going through that, I had very minimal experience with girls, as most 17, 18-year-olds do. And I'm not saying that the way out of it is for you to become a complete promiscuous being. But what I am saying is if you put yourself out there and say that there's other people that might find you attractive, that might pick you like you might pick them, you start to realize that your self-esteem isn't conditional on
one person,
on the person that placed you in that friend zone.
Yeah.
And I think it also comes with other things. It's like, as stupid as it sounds, but getting into better physical shape, getting into better mental health shape, getting into a spot where you're developing an identity outside of, anyone's expectations. If you what I mean by that is like you develop a sense of identity within yourself, a sense of self, a purpose in life. Then you start to become a bit more stronger in your character, but you also become more well-rounded as a human.
Which is that self-esteem we spoke about.
Well, and the byproduct of that is that your self-esteem goes up.
Yeah.
So self-esteem isn't something that you just improve by telling yourself that I'm
Get
worthy.
more self-esteem.
It's not going to work like that. But it's by proving to yourself why you deserve more self-esteem. And what does that mean? It's meaning what you say and saying what you mean, and doing and promising and not breaking promises that you make to yourself. Because our brains and our bodies remember everything, right? And I think usually when we're stuck in that friend zone, we break our own promises. I was going to go to gym tonight, but nah, they're calling me to pick them up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do this for one of my boys because I was going to go to the gym tonight, but I'm doing it for them. But when you become the sort of human that doesn't break their own promises, self-esteem and self-respect is the byproduct. So
great message. And that's why, as simple as it sounds and as cliche as we always hear, but when people do say, just get into the gym, mate, she doesn't want you, she's broken your heart, you're stuck in the friend zone, just get into the gym. It actually goes, it's actually true.
My best gym sessions were post that. Can I just say that? I was lifting 60 kilograms on the barbell bench press as a 17, now there's 16-year-olds doing 100 kilos. But at the time, I was like, I felt like a machine.
Exactly. And it's that vice of, just getting to the gym, where it's not about just getting into the gym to lift weights. For guys, it cuts deeper. If you are stuck in that friend zone, getting into the gym means developing that physical appearance and that working on that mental health of yours as well, because that's what the gym does for us there. And as the byproduct, your self-esteem goes up, your self-worth goes up, so that when you are in these situations in the future, you know how to navigate them, and you navigate them with implementing the right standards and actionable plans like what we've spoken about today.
On that note, guys, we hope you enjoy. If you're stuck in the friend zone, please let us know what your thoughts are on this episode. Maybe the advice is terrible, or maybe it's been quite useful.
And send it to your friend that might be stuck in the friend zone too.
Because we know there's many, and I think most of us will either be stuck in the friend zone or friend zone someone else. So on that note, guys, have a lovely rest of your week. Ciao.